Hello, everyone. My name is Daphne Zhao. I'm Senior Director for Security Products at Box. Today, we are diving into data security as we step into 2025. I'm joined by Jason from Cisco and Joe from Anduril, two esteemed leaders in the cybersecurity space. How exciting! We'll explore the key trends shaping the landscape, the challenges ahead, and how organizations can stay prepared. Before we jump in, Joe and Jason, would you like to briefly introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Joe McCaffrey. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for Anduril Industries. Anduril is a defense tech company. Our goal is to be the next generation defense contractor. We're only 7 years old, but we're having some initial success in this space, and we're excited to see where it leads. As for me, I'm previously a Marine Corps communications officer. Did that for a long time and served at a whole bunch of different units, and then transitioned out, and I've been at Anduril ever since.
And I'm Jason Lish, the CISO for Cisco. I've been here for about 8 months, so just started my journey here. I think everyone knows Cisco is a networking and software company. Prior to that, I ran various security programs at Lumen, Charles Schwab, and Honeywell. And like Joe, I started my career in the military as well in the United States Air Force. So happy to be here and look forward to the dialogue.
It's truly a privilege to have you both join this conversation. 2025 has just started, and we've already seen significant events with far reaching implications for cybersecurity. Joe, if you had to capture the current state of cybersecurity in just one word, what would it be?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. It's an exciting state that we're in. For the first time, maybe ever, we as defenders have the opportunity and possibility of gaining a leg up on attackers. We've long known how to secure systems. The challenge has always been for us as defenders to manage the complexity of scale. And AI is allowing us for the first time ever to get ahead of the game in terms of managing that complexity and managing the gaps that come with the complexity. And so now we're able to, or we are on in the dawn of a new era where we may be able to treat a network with 100,000 endpoints as if it was a network of five. We're able to do things that previously may have taken 100 people, and we can probably do them with one or two. The possibilities are endless. So it's an exciting time to be in this game.
Totally. How about you, Jason?
I would say fluid. The security industry, the vendor landscape, the regulatory landscape, the threat motives, and the techniques are evolving. So, obviously, this role has continued to evolve, or the security industry overall has evolved over the last 20 plus years. So, I'd say this year's no different.
Awesome. So, apparently, we are in the new era of AI. Since AI became the talking town over 2 years ago, it's evolved from its early focus on generative AI for digital marketing and for content creation to now more advanced agentic AI, powering research assistance, customer success, patient care, and beyond. So while enterprises race to adopt AI for its productivity gains, security remains a pressing concern. So, can you give us a few examples, Jason? So, what are the concerns with AI that you're currently experiencing in your day to day?
Yeah, so obviously the big shift last year was around generative AI and making sure that companies had the ability to control what information or data was being inputted into these models, because a lot of them are still for public use. So we'll probably get into it, but we see a shift on a lot of companies and how they're trying to evolve their own internal uses of models such as ChatGPT for productivity within the employee base, or going to commercial agreements with Microsoft and other vendors that are offering internal use. So that's the first thing. Your question around agentic AI, because that is now the next shift or evolution. I guess from that perspective, I see it no differently than how a lot of other technologies have evolved. If we use the analogy of a self-driving car, right? 15 years ago, we wouldn't have never, a lot of us wouldn't have imagined a self-driving car, but we saw cruise control being introduced, and then we saw adaptive steering being introduced, and then supervised driving, and now we see full self-driving. So I see the agentic AI evolution the same way. It's funny, I live in downtown Phoenix, and we have these Waymo devices or vehicles all around, and for about a year, I see them driving around, and they were training the model, and now there's no drivers. So there was a level of maturity and comfort. There was some accidents and challenges along the way, but they've worked a lot of that out. So I see a similar evolution with other use cases as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So next time around, if you're in San Francisco, definitely try out the Waymo service.
Yeah, I haven't gotten there yet because typically I have to get on the freeway, but I'm getting closer.
Nice. And how about you, Joe?
Yeah, so like AI is fundamentally changing the way we operate as a business. I think it is for most. It is a matter now of trying as on the security side to keep up and figure out how we can facilitate the safe and effective use of AI for the various applications that we have. And so, we're exploring it for everything from internal IT purposes to external product facing things to everything else in between. And agentic AI is clearly the way of the future. And right now we just have to figure out how to do this in a way that is going to be is going to we're able to maintain the existing or risk profile that is acceptable. I tend to think that the risks and vulnerabilities that will come about and already have come about from AI are probably also going to be solved with AI. And as we implement more of these systems, we're going to be leaning on AI and agents to help us combat the inevitable risks that come along with that. It's the only way we're going to be able to scale these things and deploy these things at the rate that we need to. And I tend to think that quantum's not a thing yet, but when it becomes a thing, there's going to be a bunch of vulnerabilities and risks associated with deploying that technology. And the way in which we're going to combat those risks is with additional quantum mechanisms. And I think the same is true on the AI side. So it can be scary in one aspect, but I think on the whole, we're also going to be able to leverage this new capability to do things on the security side that we've never been able to do before.
Yeah, totally. That's why you described the year as exciting, right?
That's right.
Well, and a good recent example of that is everybody saw the release of DeepSeek and the R1 model. And ironically, we just acquired a company called Robust Intelligence that does AI research. And one of the things they did is actually proved out 100% jailbreaking of the new DeepSeek model. Obviously, it'll get better, but they did this for under $50 using algorithmic validation methodology. So to your point, Joe, on being able to use technology to make other technology better, we see that every day, which is a good sign.
Yeah, nowadays with AI, everything is moving like 10x faster. So we're and at the same time, so we all know that regulation has significant impact on the adoption and application of AI. So with the new administration saying that they're going to slash regulations, so how do you see that? How do you see that's going to change the landscape?
I'll start. So I see regulation and government involvement from two angles. One is, as you mentioned, the policies, and we've seen other executive orders be introduced over the last several years. So the first area is really helping to put guardrails and frameworks in place to address things like safety, security, and even workforce training. Right. So how do we evolve as a country and as a world in terms of AI skills and things that we need to consider for the future? The EU AI Act was a good example of this, and this is a top agenda item for the U.S. the new administration. We've seen some starts and stops, and it'll be interesting to see where the new administration takes this. particularly with Michael Krasios coming back into the mix, who wrote the first executive order. The second is really fostering collaboration between private and public sectors. So we saw the recent CISA announcement with the JCDC cybersecurity collaboration playbook, which JCDC stands for Joint Defense or Cyber Defense Collaborative. And basically, it's a mixture of various critical infrastructure private companies that come together and work with the government to help protect critical infrastructure. So really around those guardrails, and then how do we continue to foster collaboration between our government and private partners?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's exactly right. I think our own take is that with regulation, less is more. But the worst is uncertainty, and we're in a highly regulated industry, and what we constantly see, and what we've seen in the past, is regulation that's kind of layered on top of each other, and it's gotten to the point such where much of that regulation is, or some of that regulation is contradictory, and it becomes very hard to parse through that. It becomes it actually in and of itself becomes a vulnerability because it makes us move a lot slower. And I think there's an argument to be made that this overregulation in our industry has, certainly in the defense world, has resulted in us moving a lot slower than our near peer competitors, and that to me is a security issue. It's a national security issue, and so we're very optimistic that that less regulation here will help us progress at the pace we need to. Now, all that said, like this isn't to say regulation is a bad thing or we don't want regulation. Quite the opposite. We need to make sure that regulation is smart, it's efficient, it's effective, it's implemented correctly, it provides the right guardrails, as Jason was discussing, and we're very supportive of it. But I think the biggest thing for all industry is they want clear and concise regulation that is actionable, and that isn't contradictory, and that we don't need a slew of experts and lawyers and teams of people to decipher. And I think we're trending in the right direction. We'll see how it progresses, but I think we're trending in the right direction.
Yeah, particularly for global companies that have to have a decoder ring when we're looking at different country-specific regulations and trying to decipher what's applicable, what's not, what's the lowest common denominator. Joe, we could probably spend the rest of the time also talking about CMMC and the challenges around that from a DoD perspective.
We absolutely could, and the effort and the intention behind CMMC, I think everybody is supportive of. Like, we want a strong defense industrial base. There are real threats out there. There are actors who are constantly trying to gain our information, and we don't want the enemy to be able to slurp up data that's going to help them in their national security efforts. So the intentions behind CMMC are honorable, and I think the right ones. The question is, how do you implement it at scale in an effective way, where you're also encouraging new incumbents and new entrants into the defense space? And that's a hard thing to do. I think they're trying to thread a needle. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, totally. So with AI, with regulations, with other concerns around AI, at Box, since we leverage AI, we for Q&A, and we are working on metadata extraction, leveraging AI to make unstructured data structured, so it's much easier to use. So with all this, at the same time, we see on the customer end, it actually takes time for our customers to adopt AI. It's not because people don't want to; they really wanted to turn on AI immediately, but there are regulations. They need to talk to lawyers. They need to align on strategy internally, how they're gonna treat this, how they make sure that there's sufficient amount of security controls around AI before they open it up to employees. So, can you share how your practices have been with your employees so far?
Yeah, like, first of all, the demand from the company side is insatiable. Like, the reality is everybody uses these tools already in their personal lives, and they understand and can just sense the impact that they're going to have when applied to business problems. And so we don't have we don't have the option of like burying our head in the sand and pretending this doesn't exist, or running away from the problem. We have to figure out how to implement these things in a safe and reasonable way, like I discussed before. Uh, for us, it's scoping the problem into things that we think that AI can be helpful for today. There's a lot of theoretical things that I think will eventually come to fruition in terms of what AI is going to allow us to do. But there's a reality that we have a business to run on a day-to-day basis, and we have to figure out how can we take the technology where it stands today and integrate it with those business processes in a way that we're actually adding value, not subtracting value. Uh, the and what we're finding is that in some areas AI is exceptional, and in other areas it leaves a lot to be desired, and it still has a long ways to go. We're focusing on those areas where we think it can impact today. And I think you guys at Vox are focused on the same thing. You're already seeing there's areas in which you can leverage the technology as it exists today for good, and we're doing much of the same. I think those things we have to start small, and start with very scoped and focused efforts, and then grow from there. And that's what we're doing.
Nice.
Yeah, I think the only thing, and Joe, you hit on a lot of the key salient points. The thing that I would add is, I view this AI evolution really no differently than a lot of the other technology evolutions that we've embarked on, even going back from distributed computing, mobile, wireless, cloud. I remember being on the Box advisory board 6, 7 years ago, talking about the fear of uploading data into the cloud and having someone else store it and who manages keys. So really, this AI evolution is, while it's the inertia is a lot quicker from that standpoint, but it's the good thing is we've gone through these evolutions, and it's just a matter of making sure that we have the right controls. And as Joe said, the ability from a technology standpoint is going to continue to evolve, very quickly as well. Just like Box, even introducing AI capabilities to make it more secure and allow more productivity. That's going to be a big part of the journey as well.
Yeah, so as said, will you be considering leveraging AI to help with, for example, security operations? So especially in shortage of experienced security experts now.
Yeah, I mean, so for us, absolutely, we will and are using AI to help supplement our workforce. I don't think we're nowhere near the point where we can just get rid of experienced security engineers. But what we can do and are doing is applying very specific capabilities to things that we don't want to waste our security engineers' time or valuable time with. Um, and when you talk about defending networks that are hundreds of thousands of endpoints large and very complex, there's a ton of things that just previously have never been done or have never been looked at that deploying AI in a sensible way allows us to do, and then effectively use that to gain additional and better signal that we can flag to security engineers, security analysts to do the very human work of figuring out what that thing is and whether we need to take additional action based off of it. So we really view it as a force multiplier. That's how we're applying it today, and I think it's going to continue um, for the foreseeable future. I don't think we're talking about replacing in mass security engineers.
Yeah, and you hit on something around the value, and what I always tell folks is the things that we do, whether it's been automation or integration, the goal, and now with AI, is to move our folks up the value chain. And how do we eliminate, less meaningful activities, and whether it's applying AI or automation, we've been on that journey for several years now. With AI, the use cases are a lot more interesting. Like for example, how to enable a SOC analyst to do natural language querying against hunting activities, or when they're performing forensics to help speed up a potential incident to take the appropriate action. So we're thinking about all of those things that can help enable our own folks to help defend quicker, within our organizations, just the same way we have with other capabilities that have evolved.
Yeah, totally. At Box, like we mentioned earlier, so I think both of you are on the product advisory board in the past, where we talked about leveraging AI to help with, for example, classifying content, extract useful information from content, which all of this is for admins to better understand the content, which in turn can help with security controls around only sensitive content, not all of them. So we are still striving for the frictionless security without compromising productivity there.
Yeah, and really the goal is around speed and quality. All these things we can do, but can we do them quicker and with a more repeatable outcome from that standpoint?
That's awesome. However, the cyber security landscape is constantly evolving, but one thing that remains the same is bad actors are always looking for ways to get their hands on sensitive organizational data. So, what new attack vectors are emerging, and which tactics do you see sticking around for another year?
Yeah, before I jump into that, just one more thing around the talent piece um, that I think is important to remain vigilant on is just the over reliance on AI for our workforce and taking the outputs and the models at face value. So I think it's just something that we need to be conscious of and making sure that we understand the logic behind those outputs and what goes into those models and being able to dissect some of the behind the scenes uh, algorithms and the outputs of that. So just wanted to add that piece. As far as the threats and what we're seeing from an AI perspective, I'll be a little bit unorthodox and just say that we still see a lot of the fundamental attack vectors, phishing, uh, social engineering, and all the things that we've been living with for the last several decades. Um, where I think AI comes into play is really being able to expedite some of those attacks that we still see. So deep fakes for phishing to make it more sophisticated. And so it's not necessarily about the AI. It just goes back to, I think, the fundamental controls around, how we defend against, the various types of attacks that we still see every day. So that's my first reaction is we're not seeing really a lot of sophisticated AI attacks yet. It's not to say that we won't, but the basic stuff is still working.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, and that's the reason that we're not seeing the more sophisticated attacks is because why waste those? Why burn those if you're a bad guy? If you can just use the tried and true methods, and so we still see the same thing, which is certainly there are actors that are more sophisticated than others, but even the most sophisticated actors are still starting with the very basic attacks, phishing, social engineering, because they're still having success in those manners, and so I don't think until we can stop those things, we're gonna really stop the most simple attacks from happening. What I think AI is changing is as Jason said, it is increasing the pace at which these simple attacks can be executed. And so instead of the whole like pipeline of an attack or the whole chain of an attack can move a lot quicker than it previously was able to. The scanning, enumeration, landing a foothold, then laterally moving, that can happen very, very quickly because you can, as an attacker, enumerate much more quickly, test a bunch of different attacks much more quickly. And so then it's incumbent on us as the defender to play the cat and mouse game we've been playing for decades of rising to the challenge and figuring out how to catch that stuff as it's happening. But fundamentally, the attacks themselves are no more sophisticated than they were, say, 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, phishing, patching, credential management, all of those things. Um, it, I will add one thing. I did have a dialogue with our head of our threat research at Talos about this a couple weeks ago. One thing that they are seeing is the expedition of the creation of malware code and being able to generate that and distribute that more quickly to threat actors to be able to leverage. But then that still goes back to those fundamental attack vectors that we see. But the cycle time for the threat actors is improving.
Okay, so we talked about phishing, we talked about social engineering, we talked about all these threat actor attacks, and it doesn't seem like that's changing much, but some of them are probably accelerating at the moment. So with that, actually, we all know this constant topic that's human is the weakest link in all these attacks. So let's talk about the human element. So with AI becoming deeply integrated into both personal and professional life, how have you seen employee behavior shift? Whether it's in security awareness, productivity, or risk taking, or any other aspects.
One thing that we are seeing that's unique here is it's being used in everybody's personal lives as well, and that often bleeds into the corporate environment. Initially, a lot of organizations saw sensitive information being uploaded to these public generative AI sites. So that was something that a lot of organizations had to get in front of, either by blocking or putting specific policies in place. But then just general awareness that even though most employees felt like they were doing something good by being productive by using OpenAI or ChatGPT and other open source AI sites out there, in a lot of cases they were uploading internal information. So being able to provide awareness that once this information's out there, it can be used for public consumption. So that is a big area that we continue to address, both from a preventative as well as from an awareness standpoint.
Yeah, and I think largely the same for us. The very quick proliferation of these services and technologies makes it a bit of a whack-a-mole to try to block people from leveraging. And so education to the users to make sure that they understand that they shouldn't be treating this anything any different than they do other public services, secrets, tokens, passwords. Like, we have to make sure that we're not injecting that into these publicly available services, and understanding, like, again, we're in a regulated industry, and so we have other compliance requirements of things that um, we cannot share outside of the company, and outside of like authorized channels, things like controlled unclassified information or ITAR data. And so for us, it's about putting, again, guardrails in place. And sometimes that means self-hosting a model. Sometimes that means blocking a site. But for us, we are always going to assume that the user wants to use these things. We just have to figure out how to educate them and give them the tools such that they don't need to create shadow IT and go off on their own and do their own thing. We want to be able to provide them the tools necessary to do their job, and do it in a safe and compliant way.
Yeah, and Joe, you touched on something earlier too around technology continuing to evolve. Um, as you very well know, 10, 15 years ago, we were playing whack-a-mole, proxy blocks and firewall blocks. What we're seeing now is being able to have intelligent upstream capabilities to inspect traffic a lot quicker, at least on corporate devices and mobile devices, from a corporate perspective, where we can allow folks to use and access these sites, but control what information is uploaded, either content or copy paste and things like that. So the good news is we're seeing a lot more capabilities out there. Even Cisco, we're using our own secure access capabilities to split policies to only look at traffic going to AI sites and inspect that, but let everything else out. So I'm hopeful there that even beyond training, that there'll be capabilities to help protect companies as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Using AI to combat the threat that AI brings. I love it.
Totally. So similarly, we have the same concept here at Box, where we make sure that we provide the AI platform where enterprises can plug in your trusted AI vendors into the platform to use that as the language model for the content that you store on Box, and to make everyone's life easier and more productive as well. So yeah, anything you want to
Well,
share?
I was just going to say, ironically, Aaron, founder and CEO, participated in a recent summit. Just a plug, CiscoAISummit.com. Aaron was actually interviewed and talked a lot about that. And there was other folks there. Just encourage everyone to check it out because Box was involved with that forum.
Well, thanks for the plug. And totally. So as we are so excited about AI, that's going to improve the productivity for everyone to make everyone's life much easier. So I didn't share earlier, but actually in my personal and professional life, I use AI almost on like every hour. Because when I need to summarize things, when I need to ask something that in the past I can only search with search engine myself, and then I have to go through all this result myself to validate is this good content, is this bad content, and is this accurate information, is this sufficient information for me to digest from. So that's a lot of task for me, and AI totally simplifies everything there. So it's not just the chatbot; it's actually making day-to-day life much easier and more streamlined.
Yeah, what's fascinating to me is we do an internship program every year here at Cisco, and right when I joined, I had the pleasure of being able to sit in on the intern showcases where they're assigned specific projects, and then they report out at the end of their internship. What was amazing is most of the interns had just leveraged AI, and um, they just spoke to it like it was a natural thing. So it was pretty fascinating as we see the the workforce coming in, how it's just part of their daily life, and they don't think twice about it in some cases.
Yeah, totally. So not only interns we see here at Box, but also our engineers. Naturally, they're leveraging AI to simplify some tasks, the repetitive tasks that they're performing on a daily basis. And then once they make it agent, so they actually share this with other engineers on other teams. And overall, we are actually making the entire organization much more productive and efficient.
Yeah. And I would say this goes back to and I know we sound like a broken record, of the continued evolution around capabilities to help both general population as well as engineers identify and just inherently build security in. So with the engineering community, as they look to develop and utilize AI, how we're seeing defense mechanisms to help them secure more or code more securely, and identify where these models exist and if there's any data leakage or unauthorized use of AI tools and things like that out there. So I'm hopeful we'll continue to see that evolve.
Awesome. So, last question for Jill. Is there anything that you are planning on this year, um, leveraging AI or anything project around AI that's going to improve productivity while you're making sure security is intact?
Yeah, there's a lot of efforts that we have underway, and they're obviously going to continue. I think one of the ones that is particularly interesting to me, and Jason might appreciate, is kind of a renewed emphasis on network security. Like when I first started in this world 20 years ago, network security was the thing, and then it resulted in us making, as an industry, some bad design decisions, in which if an attacker was able to get into an internal network, they effectively owned the network. There was no notion of application security. And so then the pendulum eventually shifted to where application security was a huge focus. And eventually that morphed into zero trust, which was all very good. But I think what happened is we kind of ceded the network layer to the attackers in so doing. And such, like we don't actually look at the network layer anymore. And I think there's a lot of insights to be gained, particularly when you talk about leveraging the new tools that are out there. There's only so much you can obfuscate when it comes to the network. You can encrypt stuff, but what goes over the wire is what goes over the wire. And in that, I think we're going to find a return to some of the techniques and things that we saw a long time ago. So we're very excited in applying AI to the network security, um, uh, along with a whole bunch of other things too, of course.
Yep, that's indeed an exciting year ahead of us. It's truly an incredible discussion. A huge thank you to our guest speakers. Jason and Jill, for sharing your insights on the evolving landscape of data security in the new era of AI.
Yeah, and thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise. And these are always fun. Great to talk about some important topics here, and appreciate the partnership with Box as well.
Thank you. And your expertise has shed light on the challenges as well as opportunities ahead of us, from navigating regulatory complexities to harnessing the AI-driven security solutions. As we've seen today, the pace of change in data security isn't slowing down, and staying ahead requires continuous learning, collaboration, and innovation. I hope this conversation has sparked some new ideas and perspectives for all of us. And thank you to our audience for your engagement. Let's keep the discussion going beyond just this session. And together, let's build a more productive while secure digital future.